My name is Troy Zerveskis.
And I'm Rich Sentnor.
Our firm is Advisory Resource Group, a financial planning and wealth management firm that works with physicians and dentists. A core value proposition of Advisory Resource Group is our financial literacy program. And there's some core tenets of that program that we believe really run through all stages of practice in life, but certainly to the early stages of a medical or dentist career.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of the number one thing that we like to talk about is building strong habits. And it's really, to use a medical analogy, it's diet and exercise, right? It's making sure that you build those muscles and you get into those routines and habits early on. And the sooner that you can start building those habits, the better they're going to do for you and the longer they're going to last you over the course of your career.
Yeah, it's those small inputs every day. It's that understanding that hours make days, days make weeks, and weeks make months in order to get that result that we're looking for. The next concept that we talk a lot about is balancing saving versus paying off debt. And understanding that for most medical and dental students that are coming out, the debt loads these days are big. And we can't focus all of our attention in one area or the other because oftentimes, and a good example of that is emotionally, oftentimes we want to focus on our debt. The problem with that is that if we only focus on our debt and not focus on our savings as well, it's very likely that we're going to miss some larger goals along the way because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the number one question that we get from any young professional is, if I do have some extra money at the end of the month, is it better off to pay down debt or to save that money? Or invest that money? And it's a really, unfortunately, an answer that is, it depends, right? It depends on everyone's situation, and you really need to take stock of your particular situation and really step back and look at your individual financial situation to determine what's going to be the right answer for you.
That's right. I think that brings us to our next point, which is every decision should be made in the part of a larger plan. You really want to take a step back. You want to understand the big picture before you make any smaller decision. And when you do that, you'll have a much better sense of how that overall plan fits together. And we use some really neat, as your toys have become more fun, our toys have become more fun as well. And we use some really neat tools that allow us to model what someone's financial future might look like by making certain decisions. And that's really helpful in helping to understand how we make some of those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the things that we bring to the table that is most useful to people is really understanding what that plan is going to look like and then using that to determine different scenarios for each person to determine what that's going to look like in the future and putting into place a bunch of different variables based on everyone's individual goals and needs.
That's right. The next point is really one that is incredibly important for medical professionals by way of protecting everything that they've worked for. We don't have to tell you how much of a sacrifice you've made to get to where you're at right now. And so the idea of risk management, in most cases shown through disability insurance, is really an important factor for medical and dental students.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a key component. You guys have worked really hard to get to where you are. You've gone through tremendous amount of hours, debt loads, blood, sweat, and tears. It's the number one thing that derails professionals' financial plan, and executing that plan is the what ifs. What happens if something happens? And making sure that your coverage is in place regardless of what that misstep is or whatever that issue is that comes in, that you're covered under that risk management. It's an incredibly critical part in making sure that that plan can be successful.
Yeah, and it's also understanding that your income is your biggest asset, right? And certainly in this situation, the sacrifice that you've made to get to where you are and how much bigger that income is going to be in the future. And so the idea of doing that correctly, we can help you protect your post-training income or even further into your career income by doing the right things today.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the next component that we talk about is to make sure that you're looking at yourself like a business, right? So you have to run yourself, your own personal corporation.
That's right. So that's looking at how you're saving, how you're paying off debt, how you're utilizing your debt. Again, corporations will have whole departments around how they effectively use debt in order to get further along in their businesses. And you need to think about that in the same way in your careers. Am I utilizing my debt correctly? Am I utilizing the programs and the plans that exist out there for me to use my debt as most effective and efficiently as possible?
Yeah, and am I making those decisions that are going to be most beneficial to me and your own personal business going forward, and trying to take some of the emotion and personal connection out of those decisions, not all of them, but some of them that are going to help you progress at a much better clip than if you didn't.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that we come across people at both ends of the spectrum. And what I mean by that is we have the do-it-yourselfers, and we have the people that want to put their heads in the sand and pretend that these things don't exist. And the reality is that that's fine. We're able to add value to both. The reality is that for those people who want to put their head in the sand, they really can't. They have to really understand and focus these concepts. But those people might say, you know what, I really need some help to have somebody sort of bring the funnel down and let me know what's important and what I need to be thinking about. On the other hand, the people that are more of the do-it-yourselfers, they might just be looking for, hey, of the 100 things out there and all these different articles I've read, what are the few that I should be focusing on? What are the things that are important to me? So again, it's just understanding who you are and that likely there is help available, but that help might look very different for each side of the spectrum.
For sure.